Okay, I'll start. Good evening, all, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Akshay. I am the project director for Moneylife Foundation. Allow me to welcome you all today for another important session. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Moneylife Foundation is a 13-year-old nonprofit organization primarily engaged in spreading financial literacy and advocacy for savers. We also make efforts to spread consumer awareness on a variety of issues that are of interest to our members. As you know, your credit profile serves as a foundation for financial stability, and it also opens doors to various credit opportunities, such as loans, credit cards, or mortgages. Lenders and financial institutions rely on credit profiles to assess an individual's credit worthiness and to determine their eligibility for borrowing. A strong credit profile will also provide you with the financial flexibility and greater control over your financial life. Financial stability and credit worthiness play an increasingly vital role in today's modern world, and understanding the strategies to build a strong credit profile is more important than ever. So today we have once again invited Ms. Aparna Ramchandra to share invaluable insights and actionable strategies that you can implement to enhance your credit profile. But before you embark on this transformative journey towards financial empowerment, allow me to formally introduce Ms. Ramchandra. Aparna is the founder director of Rectify Credit, which is India's first credit advocacy, advisory, and counseling company. She has an MA in economics, a PG in banking and finance, and is also a certified financial planner. She is an active blogger and has been a columnist with the Mint, Outlook Money, Femina, and Moneylife as well. Seeing that from an emotional and humanitarian perspective, she has made it her mission in life to educate people on financial aspects. She has conducted many workshops on credit related issues for various organizations and has also taught at business schools across Mumbai. Apart from this, Aparna is an ultra marathoner, having run many half marathons in India, and also a cyclist who has cycled from Goa to Mumbai. She is an avid traveler, a polyglot who speaks and understands 12 languages and writes in five. Before I hand it over to Aparna, allow me to share some ground rules for today's session. We have kept all of you on mute for the benefit of all involved and will only unmute you during the Q&A session. For optimal viewing, we suggest that you keep the webinar on speaker view. The meeting is being recorded and shall be uploaded to our YouTube channel, OneLife TV. During the Q&A session, please use the raise hands button that is available on Zoom if you need to ask any questions. Also, a sincere request to keep your questions short and to the point. Please feel free to use the chat section to share your comments, questions, and observations, but do send it only in the public forum, marking everyone. Please do not send us a private message as we will not be able to monitor and reply while the session is live. Please also note that your cameras may be on by default and you could be broadcasting your background and homes for everyone to see. If you wish to maintain your privacy, you may turn off your cameras off now. And now, without taking too much time, may I ask Aparna to please take over and start her presentation. Aparna, over to you.
Thanks, Akshay. Good evening once again, and welcome to the people who've joined in. Can we just have the PPT? Oh, yeah. So we've discussed about credit report, credit profile, what happens and how happens, and a lot of people come back and say that yes, we understand that this is the problem, and we've been facing issues, but then tell us what needs to be done. So if you give us the it's like literally today what I'm going to be doing is giving you your DIY tools so that you are able to figure out when is it that you need to seek help, and what are the situations wherein you may get into trouble, where your loans may get rejected, and or after your loan has been rejected, what next? How do you sort yourself out? So please always remember that this whole credit profile, credit score, your credit report, it's a very dynamic thing. When I say dynamic, it means today if you've messed up with your repayments, or taking too much loans, or making late payments, or just not making payments, or any of those, your credit profile will take a beating. So in the coming month or two, you will see that your credit profile has taken the beating. But having said that, after 3 months, if you get your act together, maybe there was a job loss, maybe there was a financial emergency, maybe there was some other issues because of which you could not repay for the first these 3 months. But after 3 months, if you get your act together, the system will again start rewarding you. So this is like, there is like a carrot and a stick that is constantly going on. So there is, so if somebody tells you that, once your credit profile is bad for 7 years, you don't have to do anything and everything gets fine, that again is false. If somebody says once you're part of the defaulters database, there is no way you can come out of it, that is again false. If somebody says today if you are at 800 for life you are going to be at 800, that is again false. So it is constantly monitoring your credit behavior and vis-a-vis giving you an update as to where you stand credit wise. So credit report, ideally every lender is supposed to be submitting their data month on month, which is every 30 days. But then we all know in reality, some of the PSU banks don't submit data for 6 months, 8 months. But the algo runs once in 30 days. So based on that date, what your standing is as far as your loans and cards are concerned, you are, that is the credit profile, that is the credit score, and that is your credit report that gets generated. So can we have the PPT please, so that I stick to the point and don't go off the thing. Yeah. So go to the next page. So typically, I come back to the same page again. These are the commonest issues, right? So why I'm coming back to the same page again is this is where I'll be able to correlate as to when you need help and what are the strategies and what are the tools that I can empower you with so that you're able to sort your act on your own if it is not something very major. So when you say, how do I know my information with my, available with the credit bureau is correct? So which means what? How will you know that? You will have to check your credit report. And now let me again reiterate. Uh, According to the RBI, every individual is supposed to get one free credit report from each of the four bureaus once in a year. So if you want to apply for your own credit report, which is not an inquiry, it doesn't adversely affect anybody, and it is a free report, you can apply on each of these bureaus. So which is CIBIL, which is CRIF Highmark, Experian India, Equifax India. So all the four, there is a separate tab there where you can apply for the free report. This is for the individual report. So now when you get the report, just go through once as to, whether your address, your PAN number, your date of birth, those are the initial data points. If those are correct, then go step by step checking all your loans and cards, whether they have been updated properly. Sometimes it may be the same ICICI card, but it may be, if you please check, it may be some other number. So just go through once. And when I'm coming to the card, invariably what happens is, typically, this is very typical of ICICI, the first credit card that they have given you, subsequently, say it was valid till 2022 and they gave you a new card in already in 2022 beginning, but with, that this is now valid say till 27 or 2029. So in the credit bureau, if you see, there will be two credit cards that are reported. The first one continues to get reported and this second one gets month on month, it gets updated. Now this is a pain. It is very, very irritating, but then the only thing that you can do is continuously hound them, tell them that you need to, stop reporting the first card and you would like only the second card to be reported. Now if all is well, in an ideal scenario it doesn't really matter, but as when I see it as a credit expert, the credit report, I don't like it that there are multiple credit cards being reported for no rhyme or reason. So ideally get those out. And then also see the enquiries. Just make sure that all the information that is there is updated and is correct. Okay. Now I don't understand. Now this we will come to in the last. Now you say that my loan application has been rejected. Now typically what happens is the banker just informs you that because of bad credit profile we are not able to give you the loan, so we are rejecting. So he 9 on 10 he or she may not be even telling you as to why they are rejecting. They will only say credit profile kharab hai, right? So then you have to then go, and when you check your report is where you will figure out whether the credit score is less, or there are some negative accounts that are being reported, or maybe you've closed a particular loan but it is still reflecting as open, or it is being reported as a defaulted loan. So all these things you will be able to figure out. Now how can I clear my issues in the credit report? I will again come back to this in the last. Now, how do I improve is part of the discussion today. And same thing, I'm not getting my home loan because of issues in my credit report. So these are typically the scenarios wherein your credit report or your credit profile is a pain point and we need to be working on it. So now we start our DIY session. So let's please go to the next slide, please. So when do you need help? Now, today I kept it very simple so that people are able to understand and kind of, manage their act together themselves without really asking for expert help. Now, when do you need help? Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was good 4 or 5 years ago. Sibyl used to run a lot of advertisements on all the news channels during prime time. And sadly so it would say that 720 के ऊपर is a good score, 720 के नीचे is a bad score, right? Now so everybody in the industry, like how photocopy is Xerox and credit report is civil report, वैसे ही lot of people are just assuming that 720 and above is like a good score. So lot of people come to us saying that अरे मेरा तो 780 score है फिर भी credit card नहीं मिल रहा है. Now please understand that why I wrote a separate point is I want to repeatedly reinforce on this and harp on this, that credit score, it is like a fever is just an indication of lot of other infections in the system. So the fever per se, yes, it is a problem, but you need to understand why you've landed up with that fever. If the fever is just a plain vanilla fever, that is a separate story. But 9 on 10 fever is always because of an inherent infection in the system. So the doctor needs to first, he might give you an antibiotic when you've gone for fever. Whereas we end up taking just Dolo 650 thinking that it is just a fever. So similarly in the credit report, a credit score may be like that fever. So a good score or a bad score per se doesn't tell anything to us when we see a credit report. So a lot of people, when we ask them to send us the credit report, very smartly they will just send the first page and say here, take my report, and here it is already 740. Now what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know anything about it beyond that, and I can't help you, right? So credit score is one of the parameter, but it is not the parameter. In the profile there is a whole lot of things that together form your credit profile, and the lender or whoever is checking your credit report is looking at all these parameters, right? So here we, as a benchmark, we know for a fact that if it is 700 or less, it is for sure a bad report. Okay, so there is no question about what else, and do we need to see more, whatever. But per se 700 and below is already a bad report. So 700 and below, you do not qualify for any of the products by the tier 1 or these PSU banks. Now there are banks where, like say an NBFC or a larger cooperative banks, where even 690, 695, they are willing to look at it because they what is called in the banking norms as deviation, and they still give you loan. But those are high risk loans, high interest rate loans. So don't go down that lane. So easy reference, when do you need help is this slide. So each time go back to that, correlate to that. Now you have delayed payments. Now, see, nobody is judging you as to why did you delay the payments. Sometimes we all, end up in situations where it is beyond our control. Now, very typically, last 2.5, 3 years, we've all gone through this whole pandemic, survived that lockdown, and, very glad and grateful and fortunate that we survived and we are here, attending this session. So, but then the things were beyond our control. So you've ended up making late payments. Now, delayed payments per se is a huge issue, but if it is something where it is, for an X period, and after that, subsequent to that, you've gotten your act together, then it is not as painful. But if there is a continuous tendency, there is a continued late payment pattern, then you definitely need help. Now you have check bounces. Now, in loans like home loans, or auto loans, I mean, today almost all the lenders insist on doing a direct debit. So they set up the EMI and then they set up a date, and it comes and hits your account. Now, if that bounces on the first attempt, ideally they are supposed to come back and hit once again, to make sure that maybe for whatever XYZ reason at that time the funds were not available, but they are like kind of making a second attempt. So always, but this has like a, this is like a catch-22 situation, because what happens is, if you miss the payment once and they come back and hit again and you miss again, they end up charging you twice. So you pay late payment penalty and check bouncing charges, all of these 2 times over. So that is one. And sometimes in cases like personal loans, or those shorter window loans, people don't set up these direct debit. They always have this system where they give post-dated checks to the lender and says this is the date and you can present the check. Now, there are then check bounces. Now, one-off check bounce is, like I said, in all of these, one-off is not as bad or as painful. But if it starts to recurringly happen, then we are in a soup. So the next is check bounce. Then is this some missed payments. Now, when I say missed payments, typically this happens in a credit card cycle. So there are some times where people pay one credit card bill, say 10 days, 12 days later, right? But they make the payment. Then sometimes during that 6-month window, where suppose your due date was, for example, today is 14th, right? So suppose today was the due date, but then they end up, so ideally the due date is again the next 14th, right? So there is a consistent pattern where within that 30-day of repayment window, they make the payment, but it is never on time. So these then come under missed payments. So all these permutation combination, if you've landed yourself in, then you need help. Next slide, please. Like I said, there is a consistent late payment pattern in multiple credit lines. Now, if you see a credit report, sometimes we see a pattern where, say, there is a 6-month window where the person has defaulted in almost 2 or 3 of his loans. So basically, what the person did not have the cash flow to make those repayments. But after the 4th month, whatever, they have again got back on track. That's fine. But if that 6-month default window and it has stopped there, and the person has landed into making settlements or not paying on time, or getting into further chaos, then that is a big red flag. So consistent late payments in multiple credit lines is a sure red flag that this person is, in a situation where he's not able to sustain his repayments. Now you have settled account. Now in these earlier stories that situations I was telling you, where the person has at least gone back and made the payment, bhale 10 din late, 25 din late, 1 month late, but the person has gone ahead and regularized his repayment cycle. But where do we come to settlement, where 6 months, 8 months, 9 months the person is not able to repay, where there is this consistent late payment pattern, and the person is now in a situation where they cannot service these loans, then they are kind of forced to do the settlements. Now subsequently I will discuss about this, especially this settlement. So hold on, but settlement on its own in the pure vanilla form is a huge negative. Now all of this, then lastly, consistently your request for new loans or credit cards are getting rejected, which means no banker has told you why they are rejecting you. No credit card company is calling you again, but you on your own, when you apply for these loans or car, and you believe that you have a good income, all is well with your profile, but you figure out that each time you apply for a new card or a loan, there is nobody that is getting in touch with you after that. So which means these are all scenarios where you need to first check your credit report, A, because only then you are going to figure out what the issue is. B, these are scenarios where you need help. Now, depending on the criticality of the issue, depending on where in what stage are you in the cycle of this whole chaos, you need to take a call as to how are you going to manage this whole thing. Next slide, please. So these are for me to discuss. Now, why and when does a credit score get reduced? Now, here, see, the regular ones, where you made late payments, where you've done lot of inquiries, where you have, defaulted, all of those, we all are aware now that that is where the credit score gets reduced. Now, there are typically scenarios. Please, try and understand what I'm trying to tell. Now, you have a good salary. You have, say, 8 or 10 lakhs as your credit card limit. And month on month, you swipe around 1.5 lakh or two on your credit cards, and you are paying them on time. So there is absolutely no hassle anyway. And ideally, you've checked your credit score, say maybe last year, and then you were somewhere 800 plus, and everything just continues to remain the same. And now, for whatever reason, for your own academic reason, or before you take a loan, you want to check, or after this session, you choose to, go and check your credit score, and suddenly you see that your score has gone to 770 or 780, and there is nothing wrong with your report, everything else is fine. Now you will say, why has my credit score gone down? Now please remember, the date on which this credit report gets generated, the data that is there as on that day, whatever is the latest basis which the algo runs and the credit score gets generated. Suppose your due date was 14th and the report is generated, say, on the 5th or 6th of June, and you have a 2.5 lakh credit card bill that is still outstanding because your due date is 14th, you've not paid. So that on that day, if the credit report gets generated, the system takes it as 2.5 lakhs is overdue on you, and that's why the credit score goes down. So please do, why I am emphasizing on these examples is, please do not go by 2 plus 2 is 4 when it comes to a credit report, credit score. Sometimes 2 plus 2 is 1, sometimes 2 plus 2 is 3. So there are multiple reasons. And like I always say, Please don't take these as your IIT entrance course or something that you have to go so personal, and people come really howling saying that I am such an excellent person, my grandfather was a freedom fighter, my father was a government employee, I come with great value system, and how can I end up with scores like this? Arey Baba, this is not your character certificate. It is just the algo and the loans that you've taken, and it will get rectified. You will move up in life. And at the same time, let me reiterate, किसी का भी 900 score होता नहीं है. So you are not going to make it to IIT Mumbai by getting that 900 ka credit score. So don't even aim for it. Okay, so this is scenario one where everything else is fine, but the credit score gets reduced. Now the second scenario where the credit score gets reduced is, say you have 5 default accounts, okay, and then you are now choosing to start to repay and close those loans, and work on getting your act together as far as the credit profile is concerned. Say for example, in the month of June, you decided that out of the 5 you are going to repay 3 of those loans. So you pay the complete amount. So whatever was the settlement, whatever was the written off, whatever was the overdue, you pay everything, and you have now closed that loan properly, and you've got the NOC, right? Now, ideally, what will you expect? Arey, 5 default tha, usme I have paid 3, which means now my credit score should have gotten better. But when you check your credit report the next month or the month after, 9 on 10, if you were earlier at, say, for example, I'm just throwing numbers, say you were at 650, chances are you may have ended up at 615. So then don't lose heart. Don't then say that, "Arey, isse acha paisa hi nahi dena tha. Why did I have to go and repay? What did I get? And this is all a con job, and this is this, this is that, and da, 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 da." Don't start. Now, why your credit score gets reduced at that time is the algo is, like I explained earlier, it is dynamic. So it is, you were in the rock bottom, nothing had happened, and then there is a movement, so it is still not sure as to which way this is heading. So the algo tries to keep you there, and that is where you end up getting a lower credit score. Subsequently, if the same report, even if you've not paid those 2 loans, but you go back and check after 2 months, your credit score would have improved. That is how the algo works. Now, if you ask me why is this is meaningless, there is no common sense. Now, this is like I always say, this is like the Coke formula. Now, the good or bad, that is how it tastes, and we all drink it if we want to, and if you're health conscious, you don't drink it. So if you're very good with your credit profile, then don't mess with it and be happy with it. If you messed it, then you have to deal with the system. It is as simple as that. Now, let's come to the next question. Now, what next? So my credit score has, hit the rock bottom. I'm not getting any loans. And what next? Now, what do I do? Now, typically, I don't go and, apply for those free credit reports online where, these fintechs are advertising that, come and register with us and we'll give you a free credit card. For God's sake, please don't go there. I am not against any of those in the personal capacity. I'm not, thing, but I have seen a lot of, very different stories when it comes to the credit reports from these. So please go apply for your own credit report. If you have exhausted your free options, please pay that 550 and get the report, right? Or come to us and we'll give you that same report at 200 rupees, but buy that report. Now, after you buy the report, you will come to know what are the issues with your report. Now, systematically, you need to work on those. And if it is very bad, do not be in a rush to resolve this, saying that, I need to take a home loan and I need this, sorted in 15 days because month end ko disbursal hoga. Now, like I always say, you did not put on the weight overnight. you will also not lose the weight overnight. If somebody is telling you you're going to be losing the weight overnight, then they are for sure conning you. So similarly with credit score, you did not goof up overnight, right? You took your time and you landed yourself in that soup. So now don't expect overnight formulas where, tomorrow morning and all is well and I start clean slate. You can start, but you need to work towards it and you need to be patient. So depending on the severity, criticality, give yourself that time. Ideally, at least 60 days is needed, unless they are very, minor issues and, it can be resolved. Otherwise, because what happens is one cycle goes in you, getting your act together, negotiating, closing, collecting the NOC, all that goes in one cycle. The subsequent cycle is where this whole NOC gets updated and then the new, dynamics are reflected in your credit report. So give yourself good 2 to 6 months to get this together. Why am I sharing all this is, if somebody today is looking to buy a home loan, take a home loan, please start planning, talking about it good 6 months ago. Don't make it like an impulsive shopping where you went to the mall and bought that dress and regret it later. So do that homework. First, see whether your credit profile is good. Second, check your eligibility. See whether that builder ka, we have that RERA, PIRA, all that you check. And then see whether, most importantly, home loan is like a long-term marriage. So it is like a 15-20 year commitment. Yesterday, if you see, SBI has chosen to increase the tenure to 40 years. God alone knows who's going to take the loan for 40 years, but they have said 40 years. I was doing a calculation. Even if you say 62, that means SBI is assuming a 22-year-old is going to take a home loan. But the fact of the matter is they are increasing the tenure so that the EMIs are lower and people don't default, but whatever. So do all that and then jump in for the home loan. So if your credit profile is bad, you've had your fun when you were younger and now you are wanting to get your act together, give yourself 6 months before you start to plan any of those big loans, right? So don't jump into something overnight. Now, when there is a delayed payment pattern, this is again something that I want to reiterate. I keep crying horse from the rooftop. When a credit report is generated, please remember three things. If it is a live account, which means it is an ongoing account or an ongoing credit card, last 36 months data gets reported, which means what? Before 36 months, whatever has happened, that gets erased and the new 36-month gets reported. Okay. So if 4 years ago you had mucked up with your credit card bill, but subsequently you've been fine, very good, you are, absolved of all your crimes and you move ahead. Number one. Number two, if you had a delayed payment pattern and subsequently you ended up either closing that loan or settling that loan, or that loan has been written off, then what happens is the meter stops there, right? So when the meter stops there, आपका लास्ट 6 मंथ्स, आपका लास्ट 9 मंथ्स में जो भी आपका कांड हुए थे, that will continue to get reflected and reported till that credit report for you is available. Today, unfortunately, people who die, their PAN cards, Aadhaar cards surrender happens, but the credit cards reports is still, we are working on it, but currently that's what I'm trying to say. So if somebody says, I am going to give you, I will charge you an X amount, but I will clean all your DPDs. Please remember, something like that is just not possible. Just not possible. So if delayed payment pattern is there, now you will tell me, acha madam, abhi ho gaya delayed pattern, ab kya? Right? So suppose there has been a default, there has been a settlement, there were delayed payments, and then good 1 or 2 years, whatever, now you've come back, all is well. chances are, if you are lucky and you are trying to, you're now financially very well, and the banker knows you, and that is where you have your salary account and all of that, with extra checks and balances, say a mortgage loan like a home loan gets approved for you, and you continue to repay well subsequent to the home loan. Just one second. Subsequent to the home loan, you get one more credit card, and all is well with that credit card. Then you start to rebuild your credit profile. So this 10 years ago, whatever you had defaulted, late payment, it will still be there in your credit profile. I'm not saying it will go, but the negativity, that sting that it has, would have reduced. So the banker will make a comment, अरे आपका तो 2000 में दो credit card में लफड़े थे, or whatever happened. But subsequently, when all is well, then गाड़ी आपका निकल जाएगा. So delayed payment का, you have to remember this. What if it is a live account more than 36 months, you are all right. If it is a settled account, that settlement, that DPD, it is called delayed payment pattern, that DPD will continue to get reported. 3, later on, if you are able to sort your act together and you get some credit cards or loans allotted, given to you, and you get your act together, then the old DPD doesn't matter as much, but it will continue to reflect on your credit report. Okay. Check bounces. Now, check bounces typically, if you are someone that that your account balances are never consistent, and your lifestyle is such, or your work style is such that you're not sure whether you are going to be having the balance in your account all the time. In those scenarios, please don't go issue these post-dated checks and get into this mess in the first place. Suppose that has already happened. Now there have been check bounces. Now typically what you have to do is have that SMS alert on your account, so that the first time the bank hits, and you have typically a 6-hour window, see how you can replenish your account so that it doesn't happen. If there are only 2 or 3 check bouncers and subsequently you've been good, but the banker has charged you, then ideally, after good 2-3 months and your profile and everything else is good, you can always go back and talk to your banker and request them to reverse these check bounce charges. So they can do that. Now and then let us come back to our settlement story. Now what I'm sharing with you is like a really trade secret, but we are all human beings, scenarios do happen, so I'm giving you certain tricks here. Now you have, say, had fun, buy now pay later kind of a thing, and nicely jazzed up your credit card and on very whimsical expenditures, and you've ended up settling your credit card dues. That is one scenario. But there were sometimes genuine scenarios where you could not help it. Like just yesterday, I had a client, and she says 2021 she lost her job, and she didn't take any medical insurance because her company was covering her. And after losing the job, there was no medical insurance, and her mother had to undergo an emergency surgery, so she ended up swiping the credit card. Now, post surgery, also most of these insurance companies cover on your, medical expenditure and stuff. Obviously, our lady didn't have that, so she ended up swiping the credit card. And then, good 3-4 months, she was living off that credit card, as in buying the grocery and everything on the credit card because she had no money. And then there has been check bounces, late payments, defaults. And today, that whole thing has ballooned to some 5.5-6 lakhs. And seeing her profile and her past record, the guy is not willing to give her a settlement offer. And she says that, I can either settle now or give me 2 months time and I can pay. It's not that I don't want to pay, but this is where I am. Now, these are scenarios where, person ends up doing settlements, right? Now, the beauty of that settlement is, say currently last 3 months you've not been having any great income, or you've lost your job or whatever, and you are not able to pay, and that interest meter, because this is all compound interest, so interest pay interest, uspe penalty charges, uspe check bounce ka charges, uspe late, there are it's like a laundry list that they come up with. So then when you settle, what happens when you settle is, say for example you took 100 rupees as loan and 10 rupees was your interest, so you had to repay 110 rupees. So you had an EMI for 11 rupees for 10 months and your 110 was going to be repaid. Now you paid the first 2 months 22 rupees. Third month you could not pay that 11 rupees. So fourth month what happens is your 11 rupees plus the fourth month ka 11 rupees, 22 rupees plus ye 11 rupee ka charge. So by the time this comes to the sixth or the seventh month, what happens is your original 110 minus that 22 you had paid also. Now what is reflected in the books is almost 135 or 140. So then what happens is you say that, I had already paid 22 and still if I have to pay more than what I had borrowed, now where do I go? Now what do I do? And that is where there is, the tendency to just stop payment and the defaults begin. So in all of these scenarios, you do a settlement. So because you have no money, you had made the settlement then. And then, good 3 4 years later, you decide that you want to buy a house, and you go to the bank checking for your credit report, and they say, sir, आपके ना credit card पे settlement है, so आपका profile negative है, तो हम loan आपको, we can't give you this loan. And then you say, ठीक है यार, chuck it, past is past, now I've improved, and I've gotten my act together, so let me then close this account, tell me what is it that I should do. So if you have settled it earlier, there is no rule that it has to continue to be settled. It can be closed. Okay. And then you move on from there. Now, where are the scenarios where I would advise you to go for a settlement? Okay. Now, today, like I said, this is your DIY class. So this is where I'm saying there may be, listeners here, or they may be having friends and family who are in this scenario, which is why I'm giving you this tip. Suppose you are in a situation where you have 6 cards loans going on and you have not been able to pay any of them in the last 2 months. Now, there is no need to take a moral high and say, oh my God, how could you do this? Why did you do this? It doesn't work. Sometimes there are genuine stories and the person is just unable to pay. It's not that he's gone shopping or, gone and blown the money in a bar or something. These may be just grocery bills, medical bills for the family, which they have swiped the card. And there may be a personal loan which they have taken to repay the hospital bill. I mean, I'm just giving examples. So in all these scenarios, but you are young, you are say 30, 35, you still have a long way ahead. And today, none of us here are in a situation to say that I'm never going to take a loan, I'm never going to use a credit card. It doesn't work. Gone are those days. Tell me, you and I, which big assets can we buy without having a debt component in it? Today, all of us are okay to buy. I mean, we are forced to buy our vehicle. I mean, who goes and puts the whole cash on the table to buy a car? We all take loans, right? So these are all scenarios where, that, okay, today I messed up, but maybe another 2 3 years later, things are going to get better and I am going to come back to take loans. In such a scenario, I would advise you to first go and settle all those 6. At least आपका जो लाल मीटर चालू है, interest and penalty and that continuous thing, at least that will stop. Hold on. Don't do anything for 3 months. Conserve whatever you can conserve. Say by the 5th month, your situation starts to get better. Then start to choose on which are the loan, because obviously all the 6 you will not be able to repay in one shot, right? So then make a plan as to how you want to repay and which ones you want to repay. So these are typically the services that we also offer, where if the person is not able to figure out, then we pitch in and say, this is the plan that we can do for you, and in the over the next 6 to 9 months we will get you out, and you can be creditworthy. So you can do this homework for yourself as well. So these are scenarios where settlement is good, but settlement is only good when you know that you are going to go back and get this do this loan good. I am tomorrow, I don't want anybody to come back and tell, "Arey madam, aapne to bola tha money life mein to go do the settlement." My settlement is only during the scenarios where currently it is difficult to sustain your repayments. And having said that, you are also confident that you are going to be subsequently able to repay these loans. Under those circumstances, only go for settlements. Otherwise, otherwise settlement is not the option. You end up completely defaulting, and then there is a whole new story that starts. Next slide. I think this was my last slide. So I think I will, yeah. So I think I will take questions now. And if there is anything to be added while taking the questions, then I would like to, take it from there. You can close this. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Aparna, for that exciting presentation. Can we allow people to raise their hands, please? So I can unmute you and you can ask your question. If anybody has a question, use the raise hands button and I'll unmute you. Rajendra Premta, I'm unmuting you.
Unmute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. This is one situation that I faced a couple of times. Ma'am spoke about this settlements that can be cleared. Yes, 90% of the time, true. But a few times, some banks, for example, ClickScap, they refuse to honor refuse to clear the settlement by not wanting to take the waiver amount for that. And I think that was a case of a bank when the NP asset was transferred to ClickScap. That was, is there a way we can compel them to actually, tell us what is the waiver amount to clear the settlement status?
There are two things that you can do. First is write to this Clicks guys saying that you're open and you're willing to pay that waiver amount. So let them tell you what the waiver amount is and you go make good that waiver amount. Number two, 9 on 10, if they don't respond at all, which they won't respond given my experience with them, what you can do is you can go and write to the RBI. My best wishes, but I hope the RBI answers your queries. And otherwise, the last resort, which all of us these days are empowered with, is go to the social media. That's your last option.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask a question, Akshay?
Yeah.
So Aparna, this is Sucheta. I was wondering if you could tell us a little more about what happens when a bank sells your loan to someone else. It's a kind of follow-up to the last question. In your experience, are you able to sort of manage to sort things out when it goes to asset reconstruction company? Because, the complaints that come to us, a lot of times they are lying, okay? So they're adding interest at a time when, the bank, say Citibank's retail loans, someone else will buy them. There's a little gap in the middle where nobody has asked you to repay. You don't even know whom to repay. And one fine day, maybe a year later, you'll get a legal notice and a whole lot of compounded interest added on. So can you tell us what happens in situations like this?
This is our rosy roti. So this is So this is what we do on a daily basis. So what happens is, if in the last 7 to 8 years, after repeated requests with RBI and all these ARC companies, so finally they have started. Typically, see, I have taken a loan from Citibank. So my relationship is with Citibank. If Citibank chooses to sell my loan account to XYZ ARC, Citibank is supposed to inform me that my account is being sold to this XYZ ARC, and this XYZ ARC is supposed to introduce itself kind of and tell me that your loan is with me now. This was not happening, but now it has started to happen. Now, why this in some cases it was not happening is also the borrowers are not very innocent. They don't update their details with the bank. So the bank doesn't know where to respond, where to send letters. So those are also scenarios. But this is scenario number one. Scenario number two, when your account gets sold to the ARC, like you typically mentioned, that in between that, in that flux, what happens is, ideally, when the meter starts with the ARC, the interest needs to start then. So if you are someone who has all these records proper and you go with your documentation, the ARC gets rectifies it. And they say that, we are going to waiver this penalty and whatever. So in the credit report, let me mention, sometimes, you will see account sold to ARC. Okay, that account sold to ARC per se is not a negative remark. So there is nothing, it is not that your character is being assassinated. It is because your original bank has sold the portfolio and you happen to be part of that portfolio. So, but subsequently, if that account with the ARC, you repaid, done everything good, then there is no problem.
Mr. Hanuman Bhadu, I'm unmuting you. You can ask a question. Hello, Mr. Hanuman.
I think he's still muted.
Yeah, I've asked him to unmute. Okay, I'll unmute Mr. Rajendra Premka again. He has a follow-up question.
Thank you. There are a couple of things regarding CIBIL that I'd like to just highlight, and we need to push because too many customers are facing issues because of this. One is they're doing a wrong mapping. Mapping in the sense, if the name and date of birth of an individual is similar to another Aparna Ramchandra, say in Chennai, both of their loan accounts and card accounts are getting merged. And this is happening primarily with CIBIL. They lack a simple dedupe check, which I don't know whether it's Infosys or TCS. So this is causing a lot of people's loans to get stopped because of this. It's a simple software program that needs to be incorporated by CIBIL. You will not find the same thing with CRIF, Equifax, and Experian. But CIBIL always, I think from 2014, I'm finding this issue. That is one. This needs to be raised with CIBIL so that they get their act together and not unduly harass not only individuals, but companies. Individuals and companies today, their loans are purchase orders in hand and they're going for a term loan, rejected. They're losing opportunities. So this is extremely unfair by CIBIL, and they pretend and act as if it is the bank sending them the data, but they don't acknowledge that it is a wrong mapping that they are doing. When they're merging data, this is what they do. It is in a larger scale than what I've been seeing in even.
So, Mr. Premka, before
Yes,
Aparna answers, I have a question for you.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
we have been getting complaints like this at Moneylife Foundation, but
Yes, ma'am.
believe it or not, we've not got any of these in the last few years. So we have taken up several of these with CIBIL, and they do have an algo and they do merge things. But I thought that had ended. So, I'm
No,
little
ma'am.
curious.
It's still there.
So I know, let me complete. I'm
Yes,
little
please.
curious
Sorry.
about where you come from. So for instance, we are a
I
foundation.
will tell you. Yes,
We
ma'am.
get a
Yeah.
lot of complaints. So, are you able to put numbers to it in some fashion? And if you are, would you be able to write to us and give us data so
Certainly,
that
ma'am.
we can take it up?
I can give you with the credit reports itself, whatever I can. For the company credit reports, the individual credit report, certainly I can. Second thing is on a more serious nature of fraud being committed by certain insiders within CIBIL. And they are being engaged by a group of lawyers in Mumbai who are in touch with other lawyers throughout India. I had a case of one person who wanted, his DPDs cleared. I told him it is not possible in India. In the US, yes, after 7 years, automatically all those things clear. So then I somehow came across an article by a lawyer who claimed that it is possible to get your DPD cleared. So I was happy because I thought, just like the US, after 7 years, it's gone. So then that guy, said, okay, I charge so much per case. Then I asked him, how is it possible this is being done? Then he said, you've seen my article. It says that is possible. Then he told me that he is sending it to lawyers in Mumbai. I can even try to send you the CIBIL report copies of what these guys are doing is they raise a dispute. And then there is the team that works on checking the dispute and fixing it within CIBIL who does the tampering. So before the data refresh happens at the end of the month, the CIBIL report has been tampered. Also, one customer of mine said, I don't want to name that the big company that is doing credit repair, but it is the largest, I think. They are also involved in this.
I want to stop you here, Mr. Premka, because you're now making very serious allegations, which are
I will mail that to you as well, separately.
It's a public platform. You're making allegations
Sure.
definitively. We don't know where you come from. And, Aparna and we both know who you're referring to. And I think that, to my knowledge, has been fixed to a great extent. I think we should let Aparna now respond to this.
Like Sucheta said, last 3-4 years, I have also not come across these individual cases where, this data identity theft has happened and, reports. Only thing that I have been seeing in the last 6-8 months is because of these public sector banks merger that happened, lot of data is not getting updated. So there is still old data. So typically SMEs, not individuals. SMEs, there is, what is called as CMA ranking for them. They end up getting a higher CMA ranking, which is a negative, because their accounts are not updated. And if you go back, it is typically these public sector banks. But otherwise, this individuals, because everything is now mapped to the PAN card. So it is not Aparna Ramchandra, nor is it date of birth. So I have not seen this of late. So I think I will leave it at that.
Okay, let me try Mr. Hanuman Bhagavatam. I'm going to unmute you. If anybody else has a question, they can use the raise hands button or even post in the chat and I'll take up your question. Mr. Chetan Shah, I'm unmuting you.
Hi. I just wanted to know a very simple question, or rather probably what are the constituents when the CIBIL report is being prepared with terms to is it default which takes a higher constituent, or whether it is a home loan or a credit loan default, which are the constituents of the entire algorithm?
So like I mentioned earlier, this is like the Coke formula. So there is no like a formula that is available out in the public, which says, this has more or this has less, number one. Number two, but having said that, what I can tell you is when your unsecured loans or credit cards that you default or, mess up with, the penalty is more severe than the mortgage loan. And overall, if you have been good with your mortgage loans, ideal scenario. Lastly, if you are in the process of, rectifying yourself, you're in a process of repaying and building your credit profile, then I always advise that have credit cards. Credit card is like that monkey in your wallet. If you are able to tame it, then it really does wonders to your credit profile. If you let the monkey sit on your head, then the monkey really, messes it all up. So I think I have answered your question.
Okay, I'll unmute Mr. Naresh Gulati. You can ask your question.
Hello.
Sir, your voice is not clear.
Can you listen? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've unmuted myself, but
yeah.
hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah. My question, Aparna, is that can this process of accessing the credit score not be liberalized so that people, they can frequently see it, and then I think they will comply better, and I think things will help even the lending companies, banks, and even the credit companies. Is it not possible? I hope my question is clear.
No, I really didn't get your question.
I'm saying, can the process of accessing the credit score not be liberalized in favor of the individuals? I mean, they should be allowed to kind of have a login account or something, and so that they can see their credit score as often as they want.
That is still available. If you now go to for example, if you go to CIBIL.com, there is something called as subscription. So you can subscribe for a one-time report, or you can subscribe for a year, sorry. So when you subscribe for a year, every time there is a change or whatever, you get a new report. And if you want to, you can go check your report, which is valid as of last login, with your login ID password. So that is still there. And the validity of a credit report otherwise is 30 days.
If anybody else has a question, I will just give you a chance to raise your hands or even post in the chat, and I'll take it up. Otherwise, we will close the session. Aparna, if you have any closing comments.
He says, would that mean if someone has numerous credit cards, does that? No, see, the more the credit card, but if you are able to use it properly and pay all of them on time, there is absolutely no hassle. But if you have more credit cards and you are, messing up with those cards, then obviously that is a problem. So I think today's session was a more fruitful session as far as I'm concerned. So if there are any queries, and like last time, if there is anybody that is looking for help, you can always reach out. I'll be more than happy to help.
Thank you, Aparna, for the great session. If anybody has a question or query, they can still send us an email on foundation@moneylife.in, and we'll take it forward. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good day.
Thank you. Wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you. Always a pleasure to come back to Money Life. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.